She met him on a rainy Tuesday, the kind of rain that felt like God was washing the sins off the streets, or at least trying to. Her name was Alia, 24, sharp-minded, always looking for the next opportunity. Her beauty was undeniable, the kind of beauty that made men lose their logic. But behind that beauty there was hunger, not for love, not for friendship, but for control, for power, for survival. And then there was Faiz. His eyes never saw the world, but he had a heart. That did. Blind since birth, but never bitter. He trusted too much, laughed too loud, and believed in people who didn't deserve him. He lived in a small, dusty room near the train tracks, and his world was made up of sounds and smells. When Alia entered his life, it was like sunlight for him, or at least that's how he described it. "I can't see you, but when you're around it feels like the world's smiling," he once told her, his hand brushing the air near her face. Alia smiled at that, not because she felt anything, but because she knew exactly how valuable that blind trust was. Her boyfriend, Hamid, was a different beast altogether, rich, nearly 50, skin like burnt leather, and breath that always smelled like expensive whiskey. He was powerful, cruel, and always looking for new things to own, especially people. When he met Alia at a nightclub 3 months ago, he didn't ask her out. He bought her a car. She didn't love him. Hell, she barely tolerated his hands. But he gave her money, clothes, a lifestyle she could never afford. Every night with him felt like peeling her own skin off. But she told herself it was just temporary. Then one night, over drinks, Hamid said something that twisted her inside. "I want something innocent," he whispered, his voice slow and sick. Something untouched, something blind to the world. Alia stared at him. At first she didn't get it, but when she did, her stomach dropped. He was talking about Faiz. "No way," she said, her voice shaking slightly. But Hamid just smiled that dead smile of his. "I'll pay more than you've ever seen." The offer sat in her head like poison. That night she walked to Faiz's room. He was sitting on the floor trying to fix a broken radio, humming softly to himself. He looked up when he heard her footsteps. "Alia," he smiled, "I thought maybe you forgot about me today." She knelt down beside him, forcing a smile. Her chest felt tight. "Of course not," she whispered. "I've got something special planned for you. A chance to get a better life. Somewhere safe, with someone who can take care of you." Faiz blinked. "I have that here with you." She swallowed hard. "I know, but this is different. He's rich, Faiz. He has doctors, nurses, a big house, no more broken radios." He tilted his head. "You're not coming?" "No, not yet, but I'll visit, I promise." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "If you think it's best." The next day, Hamid's driver came. Faiz packed what little he had in a small cloth bag, held Alia's hand, and walked out of his old life. She never told him what was really waiting for him behind that mansion door. She tried not to think about it, about the screams, about the fear, about what a blind man felt when he realized his world wasn't just dark, it was hell. Every night Hamid still came to her, still touched her like she belonged to him, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw Faiz's smile, the one he gave her before getting into that car. Guilt is a slow poison, but it never kills fast, it just rots you from the inside. The days after Faiz left were quiet, too quiet. Alia tried to fill the silence with noise, loud music, shopping, fake laughs, parties where everyone smiled but nobody meant it. But at night, when the music died and the city sank into stillness, guilt came knocking like a ghost that wouldn't leave. She thought Hamid would forget Faiz eventually, use him once or twice and move on. But he didn't. He called Alia one night after their usual twisted routine and said something that chilled her to the bone. "He screams my name now. Isn't that beautiful?" She froze, the glass of wine slipping from her hand and shattering on the marble floor. Her blood ran cold. There was something different in Hamid's voice that night, like he had found joy in pure cruelty. "I don't want to hear this," she muttered, standing up, pulling her robe tighter. He chuckled. "You're the one who sold him. You should be proud. He's a gift that keeps on giving." She didn't sleep that night. The next morning she tried to call the driver who had taken Faiz. No answer. Then she tried Hamid's main house line. Nothing. He was shutting her out, bit by bit, like her part in this was finished. And still, part of her didn't want to believe the worst. Maybe it wasn't as bad as she thought. Maybe Faiz was okay. Maybe the screams Hamid talked about were just sick jokes from a man who enjoyed messing with people. But deep down, she knew better. She went back to Faiz's old place one evening. The room was still there, dustier now, cobwebs clinging to the corners. His things still lay around, the broken radio, his favorite blanket with the torn edge, a book in Braille that he used to run his fingers over like it was sacred. She sat down on his old mattress and cried. Not loud, not messy, just soft, broken sobs, because she knew she'd crossed a line there was no coming back from. A week passed before Hamid called her again. "Come over," he said, his voice cold. She hesitated. "Why?" "I'm done with your little blind friend. I need you to clean it up." Clean it up, her stomach turned. "What did you do to him?" "You'll see." The mansion was bigger than she remembered. White walls, tall gates, guards who didn't speak. The air felt heavier as she stepped inside. The kind of place where money covered everything, including the stench of rot. A servant led her to the basement. The lights flickered as she walked down the stairs. Her heels echoed like they were counting down to something she didn't want to face. The door at the bottom opened slowly. He was there, Faiz, chained, naked from the waist up, bruised. His face was swollen, lips split. One arm hung limp like it had forgotten how to move. She gasped, stepping back, covering her mouth. His head turned slightly. "Aliyah?" His voice was hoarse, dry. "Is that you?" She couldn't speak. "I waited," he whispered. "I thought you'd come sooner." She fell to her knees. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I didn't know I thought he'd help you." He smiled, even then, even broken. "I believed you. You were the only one I trusted." Behind her, Hamid laughed. "She wanted a better life, remember? That's what she said." Aliyah stood up, rage boiling under her skin. "You sick bastard." Hamid's smile vanished. "Watch your mouth, girl. You're not clean in this. You sold him for money, just like any whore would." Something snapped in her. All the guilt, all the self-hate, all the fake comfort. It exploded inside her chest, but she didn't cry this time. She stared at Hamid, then looked back at Faiz. "I'm going to fix this," she whispered. "How?" Hamid laughed. "You think I'll just let him go?" She turned and walked toward the door. "No," she said calmly. "But you'll wish you had." Aliyah didn't sleep that night. Her mind was a battlefield of screams, guilt, and rage. The image of Faiz, broken and shackled, haunted every corner of her thoughts. She couldn't erase the way his voice cracked when he said her name. He still trusted her, even after everything. That alone cut deeper than anything Hamid had done. She sat on the edge of her bed, hands trembling, staring at the phone in her lap. There was only one number saved under a name she hadn't touched in years. Raza. He was her older cousin. Once a small-time thug in the streets of Karachi. Now, a full-blown underground fixer. If something was illegal, Raza could make it happen for the right price. The last time she spoke to him, she was 17, and he had just gotten out of jail. She'd promised her mother never to deal with him again, but promises had already been broken. What was one more? She called. He picked up after the second ring. "Aliyah?" His voice was slow, suspicious. "I need help," she said, skipping the greetings. "I need to get someone out of a place. He's being held by someone powerful." There was silence on the line. "Who?" "Hamid Qureshi?" Raza laughed, a dry, surprised sound. "You're either insane or in love." "Maybe both," she whispered. He sighed. "You do realize he has private guards, surveillance, and enough cops in his pocket to bury you alive?" "I don't care." There was a long pause. Then Raza said quietly, "I'll come." The next day, they met in a rundown tea shop near the docks. Raza looked older, thicker, with a scar across his neck she didn't remember. He didn't hug her, didn't smile, just stared at her with those sharp, calculating eyes. You look like someone who just climbed out of hell, he muttered. I did, she replied. They talked for hours. She told him everything. How she met Hamid, what he'd done, what she had done. Raza didn't interrupt. He just lit one cigarette after another, his eyes never leaving hers. When she finished, he crushed the cigarette and leaned in. I'll help you. But if we do this, there's no going back. Hamid won't let this slide. He'll come for you. And for me. Aliyah nodded. I don't care what happens to me. Just get Faiz out. That night the plan began. Raza had contacts, a former guard who once worked for Hamid, a hacker who could loop the security cameras, a driver who owed him favors from prison days. It would happen in 48 hours. 2 nights. Later, under a sky heavy with clouds, they rolled toward the mansion in a black van with stolen plates. Raza sat beside Aliyah, checking his gun. She wore black from head to toe, a scarf wrapped tight around her face. Are you ready? He asked. She nodded. I was ready the day I saw what he did. The gate was open, just for a moment. That's all they needed. The hacker looped the feed. The guard on the payroll let them through. Inside the house, silence hung like fog. They slipped through the halls like shadows. Down the basement stairs, door locked. Raza kicked it once, hard. The wood cracked. Twice, it splintered. The 3rd time it flew open. Faiz sat slumped in the corner, barely conscious, his head lifted weakly. Aliyah, he whispered. She ran to him, arms trembling. I'm here. I'm getting you out. Behind them, footsteps. Gunshots yelling. Raza spun around, gun drawn, firing a warning shot into the hallway. Go, he shouted. Get him out. She grabbed Faiz, throwing his arm around her shoulders. His body was limp. Every step. A struggle, but she didn't stop. Adrenaline drowned out fear. Up the stairs, through the hall, out the side door, bullets cracked in the distance, but they didn't look back. The van was waiting. They climbed in. The engine roared to life. And they vanished into the night. They hid in a village 2 hours outside the city, the kind of place where no one asked questions, and the only sound at night was the wind through broken window panes. The safe house was nothing more than a crumbling 2-room shelter, once used by smugglers. But it had walls, and for now that was enough. Faiz slept for 2 straight days. His body was too battered, too drained to do anything else. Aliyah stayed by his side, wiping his forehead, changing the bandages that Raza brought from the local clinic under the table. She barely spoke, barely ate. All she could do was watch him breathe and wonder if he'd ever be the same again. On the 3rd night, Faiz opened his eyes. Where am I? He whispered, voice dry as sandpaper. Safe, she said softly. You're safe now. He turned his face toward her voice. You came back. I had to, she choked. I'm sorry I ever let you go. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. He reached for her hand, weak, but still warm. You came back. That's all that matters. But that wasn't true, not in the real world. Coming back didn't fix the damage. It didn't erase the scars across his body or the nights he screamed in his sleep. It didn't change the fact that Hamid Qureshi knew she was the reason his favorite toy had been taken from him. Raza came in that night with a grim face and a folder full of bad news. He's looking for you, he said, tossing the file on the table. Every street corner has your face on it. Cops, paid gangs, bounty hunters. He's putting out 5. Lax for whoever brings you back breathing or not. Aliyah didn't flinch. Let him come, she muttered. But Raza wasn't impressed by bravery. This isn't a movie, Aliyah. He'll find you sooner or later. And when he does, he won't just kill you. He'll make you beg first. She stood up. Then we end it first. Raza blinked. You want to go after him? I want to finish this. I don't care if I die doing it. Faiz stirred from his bed. No. They both turned to him. You've done enough, he said slowly. Don't throw yourself away for me. She walked over and knelt beside him. I sold you. I gave you to that monster like you were a bag of rice. I don't deserve to live peacefully while he walks free. I need to end this. For you. For me. For a long moment, there was silence. Then Raza lit a cigarette. I know a way. He laid it out. Hamid would be at a private gathering in 4 nights, a mansion party, no guards inside, just rich monsters drinking vintage wine and sharing stories of their cruelty like war medals. It would be the only time Hamid wasn't protected like a dictator. "You'll get 5 minutes, maybe less," Raza said. "You better be sure." Aliyah looked at Faiz. He gave her a slow, pained nod. That night, she didn't sleep. She dressed. In silence. Black jeans, black shirt, hair tucked away, no makeup. Just determination in her eyes, and a small pistol Raza had given her tucked under her belt. As she walked toward the car, Faiz called out weakly from the mattress. "Don't let him live," he said. She looked back at him, her eyes wet. "Won't." Raza drove in silence. The city lights glowed like sins against the dark sky. When they reached the mansion, Aliyah stepped out, heart pounding like a drum inside her chest. Inside that house was the man who turned her into something she never wanted to be. Tonight, she would return the favor. The mansion loomed before her, like a monster with too many eyes. Every window flickered with golden light, every corner guarded by shadows dressed in silk and sin. It wasn't just a house. It was a kingdom built on fear and silence. Aliyah adjusted her scarf and walked through the side entrance, blending in with the crowd of servers and event staff, slipping in unnoticed. The music inside was soft jazz, almost too smooth for a place that hid monsters behind tuxedos. Wealth hung in the air like smoke, thick and choking. The scent of cologne, wine, and secrets filled her lungs as she walked past waiters holding silver trays of poison, disguised as delicacy. She saw him from across the room. Hamid Qureshi, sitting in a velvet chair like a king, surrounded by 3 other men and a woman too young to drink legally. He was laughing. The same laugh she used to hear after every night he forced himself on her. His face hadn't changed, still smug, still oily, still convinced he was untouchable. Aliyah's fingers twitched toward her waist. The pistol sat cold against her hip, heavy like a question with only one answer. She moved slowly, weaving through bodies, her eyes locked on him. Raza had said she'd have 5 minutes. That was a lie. She had maybe 2. One mistake, and she'd end up a story whispered in alleyways, the girl who thought she could touch power and survived. Hamid raised his glass and stood, heading for the hallway that led to the private gallery. Aliyah followed. It was now or never. The hallway was empty, lit by dim chandeliers and lined with paintings of dead men who probably shared the same sins. She moved quickly, footsteps soft. He didn't hear her coming. When he turned to look at a painting, she pulled the gun and stepped into view. "Don't scream," she said. His smile dropped, just for a second. Then it came back, slow, mocking. "Aliyah," he said, voice low. "Back for more?" "Back to finish it. You won't pull that trigger." "You're not a killer." "No," she whispered, "but you made me something worse." She pulled the hammer back. The click echoed off the walls. "Put the gun down, girl. You think this ends with me? I own the police, the courts." She fired. The bullet caught him in the shoulder, spinning him backward into the wall. He screamed, more from rage than pain. She stepped closer. "That's for Faiz." "You think he didn't enjoy it?" Hamid hissed. "He was mine. You gave him to me." She fired again, this time lower. Hamid collapsed, gasping. "You're going to die here," she said, "alone." He tried to reach for something inside his coat. She stepped forward and kicked his hand. "No more games." He looked up at her, hate burning in his eyes. "You'll hang for this." She raised the gun one last time. "No, I'll sleep." She pulled the trigger. This time it was final. She stood there for a second, staring down at the blood pooling on the marble floor. Then she turned and walked away. Fast, heart pounding. Outside, Raza was waiting in the van. She climbed in, slammed the door, and didn't look back. "Did you do it?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just stared out the window. Raza started the engine. Good. The night swallowed them as the mansion disappeared in the distance. Somewhere far away, sirens began to wail. But it was too late. Justice had already been served. The headlines came the next morning. Billionaire Hamid Qureshi found shot dead in mansion gallery. No suspects named yet. Security footage reportedly missing. Sources say revenge may be the motive in gruesome killing. Aliyah read the news from the back room of a ERGD mechanic shop where Raza's people had hidden them. She sipped burnt tea from a metal cup and kept rereading the same line over and over again. Multiple gunshot wounds. Authorities baffled. Investigation ongoing. Faiz was asleep. In the next room, still recovering, still silent most days. The swelling in his face had gone down and the bruises were fading. But inside, no one could reach that part yet. Not even her. Raza walked in, holding a cheap burner phone. "You're viral," he said. "Well, not you, but the story. They're calling it a revenge killing. The cops are pretending to look for someone. But nobody's really pushing. Word is, even people on the inside are glad he's gone." She gave a dry laugh. "Good. Let them be. But peace doesn't come cheap, and it sure as hell doesn't last." That afternoon, 2 men showed up at the mechanic shop. Not police. Worse, private security, clean suits, cold eyes, no names. "We're looking for a girl who was close to Mr. Qureshi," one of them said, flipping a photo of her from a club last year. "She disappeared the same night he was killed." Raza stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Never seen her." They didn't argue. They just left a card on the table. "She's not safe," one of them said, turning at the door. "Not even here." Aliyah picked up the card. No number, just an address, an unspoken threat. Later that night, she and Raza argued. "You need to leave the country," he told her. "Disappear, new name, new passport. I know a guy in Muscat, he can get you out." "I'm not leaving him," she snapped. "Then both of you die, is that what you want?" She didn't answer, because no matter how far she ran, Faiz would still carry her betrayal, and she couldn't run from herself. The next day, Faiz spoke. "I want to go to the sea," he said suddenly, his voice weak but clearer than it had been in weeks. She looked up from folding clothes. "What?" "The sea, I've never seen it, but I've always wanted to hear it, smell it." She nodded slowly. "Okay." Raza didn't argue this time. He just filled the gas tank and pointed south. They drove for 6 hours past towns, farmlands, endless dust. And finally, the sea opened up before them like a wound in the earth, dark blue, loud, endless. Faiz stood at the edge, barefoot in the sand, eyes closed, breathing in the salty wind. For a moment he didn't look broken. He looked whole. Aliyah stood beside him, unsure what to say. "I used to imagine what it looked like," he said softly. "Now I don't have to. This sound is enough." She stared at the horizon. Guilt, still a weight on her back. "I wish I could undo what I did," she said. "I wish I could go back and say no." He turned his face toward her. "You did come back. That matters more." She wanted to believe him. But healing isn't a moment, it's a fight, one breath at a time. That night, they stayed in a small shack near the beach, just the 2 of them. The waves crashing outside like a lullaby from another world. She didn't sleep. But for once, the silence didn't feel like punishment. The sea gave them 4 days of peace. 4 days of quiet, soft meals and air that didn't stink of fear. Aliyah started to feel something she hadn't tasted in months. Stillness. Faiz was healing slowly. He began to smile again, even joke a little. Raza called only once to check in and told her the city had gone cold. No more men asking questions. No signs of pursuit. "You might have made it," he said, "for now." But for now was never forever. On the 5th night they heard the knock. 3 soft taps. 1 pause, then 2 more. Not a stranger's knock, not a neighbor. Aliyah grabbed the pistol from under her mattress, heart thudding. Faiz sat up in the bed, sensing the tension. She crept to the door and whispered, "Who is it?" No reply. She waited, breathing slow and shaky, then opened the door just a crack, gun raised. It was a woman, mid-30s, wearing a black coat. No makeup, no smile. Her eyes held something worse than hate, knowledge. "You're Aliyah," she said quietly. "Who's asking?" "I'm not here to hurt you," the woman said, "but you need to listen to me now." Aliyah didn't lower the gun. "Talk." The woman took a breath. My name is Mahira. I was Hamid's assistant, the one who made the calls, arranged the girls, covered the blood. Aliyah froze. Mahira kept speaking. I stayed quiet for 10 years because I was scared, because I needed to survive. But after what you did, after you killed him, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Aliyah narrowed her eyes. So why are you here? Because someone's coming for you. Not his people, someone worse. She reached into her coat slowly and pulled out a phone. On the screen was a photo, a man Aliyah didn't recognize. Older, bald, with pale eyes like glass. Mahira's voice dropped. His name is Hamid Khan. Hamid's older brother, the real owner. Hamid was just the puppet. Khan runs everything. The girls, the smuggling, the politicians. He's not angry about his brother's death. He's angry that a girl like you proved his blood could bleed. Alia's stomach twisted. What does he want? He wants to make you an example, Mahira said, to remind the rest of us that no one escapes. Faiz stepped beside her now, his face pale. So what do we do? Mahira looked at them both. Run far, change your names, disappear, or you don't live another week. Aliyah stared at her. And what about you? Why are you helping? Mahira's eyes softened for the first time. Because I had a brother. Once. He died in that same house where you left your friend. I didn't save him. Maybe this is how I pay for that. She left after that. No promises, no contact. Just a warning, and a face they would never forget. That night, Aliyah didn't sleep. She watched Faiz lie down, the rhythm of his breath reminding her of everything she had to protect. Then she packed a bag, food, cash, the pistol, extra rounds, and 2 fake passports Raza had left her, just in case. Faiz woke up as she zipped the bag. We're leaving again, he said. She nodded. Where? Somewhere no one knows our names. Somewhere cold. Maybe even a place that has snow. He gave a weak smile. I've never felt snow. She looked at him and swallowed the fear. You will. They left before sunrise, quietly. No goodbyes. No plans. Just a hope that the road might lead somewhere untouched by men like Hamid and Khan. But hope was fragile. And Hamid Khan. He never missed. They crossed the border at dawn, using names that weren't theirs, with pasts they didn't speak of. The small town they arrived in was buried under frost, white roofs, quiet mornings, and people who minded their own damn business. It was perfect. Cold, distant, forgettable. Aliyah rented a small cabin near the edge of a forest, wood walls, no internet, and a fireplace that groaned when it came to life. Faiz liked it instantly. He said the silence felt clean, not heavy like the city, not full of things unsaid. For a while it almost felt like peace. She picked up shifts at a bakery, her name now Mina. Faiz stayed home, learning how to cook using touch, reading more books in Braille, and humming again. Every day they walked by the frozen river, their breath misting in the air, talking about things like snowfall, favorite foods, and a future they still couldn't quite believe in. But inside Aliyah's chest, something never let go. The knowing. That unfinished thread, the one that tugged even in sleep, because she hadn't seen Khan's face in months, and that was the scariest part. Raza had warned her in a coded message before she left the country. If you don't hear anything, that means he's already moving. One day, she came home to find the cabin door slightly open. Not broken, just open. She stopped breathing for 3 full seconds. Then pulled her pistol from inside her coat, finger trembling on the trigger. She pushed the door open. Faiz? She whispered. His voice came from the kitchen. In here. She stepped in. Everything looked normal. Did you open the door? He frowned. No, I thought you did. She checked the lock. Nothing broken, nothing missing, just an open door. They didn't talk about it. But that night, she slept with the gun under her pillow again. 2 nights later, it happened again. This time the firewood had been rearranged. A log turned a different way. She hadn't touched it. Faiz hadn't either. She checked the windows, the locks. The trees behind the house, nothing, no tracks. But something was wrong. The fear returned, quiet and cold like the snow. Then came the envelope. No return address, no stamp, just placed on the porch like a gift wrapped in dread. She opened it, slowly, heart racing. Inside was a photo. Her Faiz, standing by the frozen river 2 days ago, taken from the woods. The message was simple. I've always preferred waiting. H.K. Her hands shook. Faiz stood behind her, silent. He found us, she said. He nodded. We run again? She shook her head. No, we fight. That night they made a plan. They set traps around the cabin. Raza had taught her a few tricks, nothing fancy. Wires, broken glass, alarm bells using cans and thread. They made a hiding spot under the floorboards. Loaded the pistol. Locked. Every damn thing twice. She didn't sleep. She sat by the fire, waiting. The wind howled louder that night. At 3:21 a.m., a can rolled. Footsteps on snow. She raised the pistol, slow and steady, just like Raza taught her. Then the door creaked. She waited, waited. A shadow moved inside. She fired. The shadow dropped. She rushed over, heart in her throat. It wasn't Khan. It was one of his men. Dressed in black, knife in his hand, she turned, and there he was, Hamid Khan, standing in the doorway like death wearing a wool coat. He clapped slowly. Well done, he said. Your father would have been proud. She froze. What? He smiled. Didn't you ever wonder why Hamid took an interest in you? Why you were handed to him so easily? She shook her head. Shut up. You're not just some poor girl, Aliyah, your blood. Your father was one of us until he betrayed me. She fired. The shot missed. Khan dove behind the wall. Another shot came, this time from his gun. The wood splintered beside her head. Faiz crawled toward the floorboard hideout, shouting her name. More bullets, more screaming. Then silence. She peeked out. Khan was bleeding, on the floor. She walked over slowly, gun raised. You know what I hate most? He coughed. Women who forget their place. She looked him in the eye. You know what I hate most? She whispered. Men who think they get to decide it. She pulled the trigger. This time there was no mistake. 3 days later, they burned the cabin. Down. Left nothing behind. No names, no faces, just ashes and cold wind. They moved again, this time to a quieter place. No photos, no phones, just peace and each other. The past still whispered. But the future? It finally sounded possible. And Faiz? He smiled more now, because even in the dark, she had chosen him again. And this time she never let go.